This is the video for section 4.1 notes, slides 7 and 8. All right, so it says find the critical numbers of f, then use the critical number test to determine the absolute extreme values of f. All right, so f of x is x cubed plus 1 half x squared minus 2x plus 5. All right, so remember the critical numbers are an x value in the domain of f such that f prime is equal to 0 or undefined. So remember the domain of f is -2 to 2. All right, and so first thing we need to recall is that endpoints are going to be where f prime is undefined. So x equals -2 and +2 are already going to be critical numbers. All right, then we need to set f prime, or we need to find f prime, and then set it equal to 0 or see where else it is undefined. All right, so f prime of x cubed. All right, so derivative of x cubed is 3x squared plus 1 half x squared. So the derivative of that would be 2 times 1 half, which is 1x, and then minus 2. All right, and so we want to set this equal to 0 or see where it's undefined, but this 3x squared plus x minus 2 is never undefined. All right, so 3x squared plus x minus 2. All right, and so now we are going to solve this. Now, we would like it to be factorable, so obviously we are going to try to factor. So 3x and x. All right, and then let's see, we've got a 2, so that's got to be a 2 and a 1. All right, and so if this is a +1 and a -2, then we get 3 times 1 is positive 3x minus 2x gives us this positive x there. All right, and so now we're going to set each of these equal to 0, so 3x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. So 3x minus 2 equals 0, so 3x equals 2, or x equals 2/3. All right, and then x equals -1. Now, remember, it must be in the domain. So you look from -2 to 2, both 2/3 and -1 are in the domain. And so then we have 2/3 and -1 also added to the critical numbers. All right, so now remember it says then determine the absolute extreme value. So we're using the critical number test, which says evaluate each of these. So f of -2, f of -1, f of 2/3, and then finally f of 2 to determine the maximum and the minimum. All right, so remember we're plugging into the original function. So -2 cubed plus half of -2 squared. I don't know what that was, -2 over 2, -2 squared minus 2 times -2, and then plus 5. All right, so -2 cubed is -8 plus half of -2 squared. So -2 squared is +4. Half of that is 2 minus 2 times -2, so +4 plus 5. So -8 plus 2 is -6 plus 4 is -2 plus 5 is 3. All right, next, -1. All right, -1 cubed plus half of -1 squared minus 2 times -1 plus 5. All right, -1 cubed is -1 plus half of -1 squared. That would be plus 1 half plus 2 plus 5. All right, so -1 plus a half, that'd be -1 half plus 2 is positive 1 1/2 plus 5 is 6 1/2. All right, then f of 2/3. All right, so 2/3 cubed plus half of 2/3 squared minus 2 times 2/3 plus 5. All right, so 2/3 cubed. So remember, just cubing each. So 8, 3 cubed is 27 plus half of 2/3 squared. So that would be 4/9 times a half is 4/18 minus 4/3 and then plus 5. All right, so now we need a common denominator in order to do this one. All right, and so common denominator would have to be 54, right? So we're going to multiply this by 2. So this becomes 16/54 plus multiply this by 3. So 12/54. All right, minus this one is going to be have to multiply by 18. All right, so 18 times 4 is 40, 72 54ths plus 5. That's going to have to be multiplied by 54. So 5 times 54. All right, so 270. All right, and so now I'm going to add these together. So 16 plus 12 is 28. So 72 minus 28 is 44. negative 44. So 270 minus 44 is 226 54ths. All right. And so that is a positive number. All right. And then lastly, f of 2. All right. And so that's going to be 2 cubed plus half of 2 squared minus 2 times 2 plus 5. So 8 plus half of that is 2 minus 4 plus 5. So 8 plus 2 is 10. Minus 4 is 6 plus 5 is 11. All right, so which is the least of these? Which is the greatest of these? All right, so well, 270 54ths, that was 5. All right, and so this is a little bit less than 5, right? All right, so this is less than 5. This is 11. This is 6.5, and this is 3. So what is the least? 3 is the least, so 3 is the minimum, and 11 is the max. All right, so that is slide number 7. All right. Moving on to slide number 8, same question basically. Find the critical numbers of f, then use the critical number test to determine the absolute extreme values of f on the domain, right? So -1 to 1. All right, so obviously endpoints x equals -1 and +1 are going to be critical numbers. Now figure out what the derivative is. All right, so derivative is going to have to be used the product rule. -3x times the derivative of x plus 1, square root of x plus 1. So that'd be 1/2 x plus 1 to the -1/2. All right, plus x plus 1 to the +1/2 times the derivative of -3x, which is -3. All right, so now we want to factor. All right, so we can factor out the x plus 1 to the -1/2. Remember, we always factor out the lower power. So x plus 1 to the -1/2. Sorry about this. All right, so now this leaves me with a -3x times 1/2, so -3/2 x. All right. And then let's see, how much is remaining here? I took out the x at -1/2. And so now I'm left with -3, all right, and then times x plus 1 to the first. All right, so now I'm going to set this equal to 0 or undefined. All right, and so we know that x plus 1 to the -1/2 can never be equal to 0, of course, because this thing means 1 over the square root of x plus 1. And since the numerator is never equal to 0, then this thing can't equal to 0. But if the denominator were equal to 0, then this thing would be undefined. And so we can say, well, we know that x plus 1 could equal 0 at x equals -1, right? But x can also not equal anything less than -1, right? Because if you plugged in -2, this thing would be undefined. So x cannot be less than or equal to -1, right? And so we know that x equals -1 is already a critical number, and so we would have that same value there. All right, now this one, all right, so we have -3/2 x minus 3x, and then -3 equals 0. All right, so -3/2 x minus 3, so this would be -6/2. All right, so -3, so that would be -9/2 x equals 3. So now I'm going to multiply by -2/9. And so I get 3 times -2/9. All right, so obviously the 3's reduce, and I end up with -2/3. All right, so x equals -2/3. And so, of course, that is a critical number because that is between -1 and 1. All right, so now I want to evaluate f of -1. F of -2/3, and then f of +1. All right, so f of -1. So I get -3 times -1 times the square root of -1 plus 1. All right, so I get a positive 3 on the outside, but then I have a 0, so square root of 0. So square root of 0 is 0, so this is 0. All right, negative 2/3, so negative 3 times negative 2/3 times the square root of negative 2/3 plus 1. All right, so negative 3 times negative 2/3, that's just positive 2 times, all right, what is this? Square root of 1/3, which is 1 over the square root of 3. So this becomes 2 root 3 over 3, which is a positive number. So obviously it's greater than 0. And then f of 1, I get negative 3 times, let's see, times positive 1 times the square root of 1 plus 1. All right, and so I get negative 3 root 2, which is a negative number. So, of course, the negative number is the minimum, and of course, the positive number is the max. All right, and so that is slide number